All right, you're good to go.
All right. All right. Thank you everyone for joining today. Today I'll be talking about how to create a custom connector. I know this is the last session, so I just got to know it's the last one. I thought there was one after this, but best for the last, I guess, right? So yeah, let me actually just give me 1 minute. I'll change because I'm looking at another screen and see team stuff here. So give me 1 second. Let me change the screen quickly. Stop presenting. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 sec. Keeps switching sides. I guess I'll just continue with that. Okay, let me know when you guys can see my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. So yeah, let me go to the next slide. A bit about myself before I get started. So I'm a business applications MVP. Have been almost for a year now, or more than a year. And my day job is a senior IT ERP analyst. Basically, I look into Dynamics and Power Platform at Regal Beloit. I also lead the Power Apps and Power Automate user group for Ohio, mainly in Dayton, but yeah, we are planning to kind of start in other cities as well. And been power addicted to the community for 3 years now, so it's strange that it has gone so fast. But yeah, I've been on Power Apps and Power Automate for the past 3 years. But yeah, so yeah, excited to share what I have learned. And this custom connector is one of my favorite topics, as you can kind of see by the name that I go with, that API guy. So I like to play around with APIs and kind of share content around that. So yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. So yeah, happy to share. All right. So the topics that we want to discuss is like why custom connector first of all. Um, like what's the even the reason behind using it. Then we'll discuss the types of authentication that are there. There are some different ways you can kind of connect to different third-party services. And then we'll be done with the boring slides and we'll jump onto the demo and show you some cool stuff. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions at any point. I know Jamie is monitoring the chat, but yeah, I'll also have a look at it and respond to it whenever I can. So before, starting the topics, I know these are some myths which I want to bust because I'm not a coder and I have learned APIs over the past 1.5 years just by myself. So yeah, I don't have any background in computers programming or anything like that. It's just something that I found out and started learning myself. So you don't need to be a coder to create a custom connector. You don't need it's a low code way to approach third party services. The other question that I get asked a lot is doesn't this require a premium license? Yes, yes, it does require. When I started with this, there was like one custom connector per tenant that was available for if you have an Office 365 license, and HTTP requests from Power Automate were not, that was not a premium connect, but now it is. Both the connectors are premium, and you'll need some kind of a premium license, like a if you are using Power Automate, you'll need a per user or per flow license, or if you have Power Apps, you'll need the per app license to, or the per user, which are some kind of a premium license you'll need to use this. If you are a Dynamics if you have Dynamics license and if you are interacting with Dynamics content or basically connecting to Dynamics and the third party to kind of enrich your data, you can do that. That's included in your license of Dynamics, but it has to be in context of that Dynamics entity. So hopefully that kind of some of the myths which people have, and hopefully that clarifies some of the things. So yeah, why custom connectors? So Power Platform doesn't have a connector for everything. They have 300 plus connectors now, but still there's not a connector for everything that you can just search for and do something with it. And also for the connectors that are there, sometimes you don't have the actions in there which you need to use, or some triggers that you need. It might be limited. So even in that case, you'll have to build a custom connector. Like if there's a MailChimp connector, it doesn't have everything that you probably might need. So you'll have to build something custom to get that specific thing that you're looking for. So yeah, you can connect to third-party sources. The main reason being businesses already have an existing tools and stuff, business systems that they use, ERP systems or anything like that. And you want to be able to connect to that instead of just using Power Platform or CDS. I mean, if you are using CDS, great, you can just connect to that directly. There are native connectors for that. But then if you already have existing systems, you want to bring in that data and then kind of make it talk to other things and do something crude operations with that. So that's where you need to use custom connectors. And the other thing is you're enriching your data, right? There are some custom connectors you can create, which are public APIs, which could enrich your existing data. It could be some customer related information or something like that, which you can get from a public API or from any other kind of source which you think is applicable for you. But you can get that data and enrich your existing data using that custom connector and that API. So yep, that's hopefully that kind of makes sense on why to use custom connectors. And so yeah, let's talk about the different types of authentication. So the first one is no authentication or like public API. Even there, they probably have like an API key, which is basically a demo. It is just called demo or something like that, generic, and you can use the API. So like NASA has a different set of API kind of endpoints, which it's basically a public API. You don't need to authenticate or anything. You can just make requests and get the data. The basic type of authentication is where you actually pass your username and password, which is not the best thing. It's not the best way to authenticate. So a lot of the APIs today don't use it, but if it's over HTTPS, it's still fine. But still, a lot of the APIs available don't generally use that. API key is one of the more common ones. Like YouTube has one, Google has it, Azure Cognitive Services has it. So all those are based on API keys. So you generate an API key which is specific to your account. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was hearing something. So yeah, so API key is a pretty kind of popular way of using it. But most in cases of API key, it's mostly like so let's say it's Azure Cognitive Services. You don't need to pass any user specific data. Like when you are logged in, you are not passing any data to that API, which is user specific, and that's why API key makes sense. But let's say if you want to use some user specific information, like on Twitter, specifically to your profile, if you are calling the Twitter API, in that case, they might use Auth 2.0, where they are authenticating the user and then creating the token for it. So going on from API key to Auth 2.0, we'll talk about Auth 1.0 in the end. But Auth 2.0 is another one which is really very popular. Facebook, Google, and so different types of, even Google has API key, they have Auth 2.0, they have multiple types of authentication for different API endpoints. So Auth 2.0, as I told you, it's you first authorize using your client ID, client secret, and then you request for a token. So when you authorize, you're giving some permissions. So the user gives the permissions, and then you get a token specific to that user, and then interact with the user data. So an OAuth 1.0 is a signature based, so you are creating like a unique signature. Now OAuth 1.0 is not possible to create on Power Platform. There is no authentication type available for that, but there are APIs that use it, and there is a way. I mean, you can use Azure Functions for that. But yeah, I'm not going to cover that today in this session. All right, I think we have covered all the stuff. So let's jump on to creating something. So today's session, I couldn't, I mean, I wish I had a better kind of a business system related demo, but just to make it more interesting, what we are going to do is we are going to create a Spotify custom connector from scratch. So I'll show you all the steps one by one. We'll see some use cases of it, and we'll use that custom connector that we created in both Power Apps and Power Automate. And if time permits, we'll try to create a Yelp custom connector as well. All right. Any questions so far? Okay.
Nothing in the chat.
All right. All clear, I guess. All right. So I already have it created, but for the session, what I'm going to do is, so you can go to either Power Apps or Power Automate. Both have this custom connectors option in there. So you can go under data and click on custom connectors, and under new custom connector, create from blank. So let's do Spotify demo. All right. So we can give it a background color, which we don't need to, but I'll just say demo for Empower conference. So there is an option to connect. So if you have an on-prem system, you can connect via on-prem data gateway. So you can create a custom connector that can connect to your on-prem data sources as well. So you will need a gateway for that, but yeah, there is an option to do that. A lot of people, I think, probably don't know about this option. So actually, before we start this, and let me actually just put the URL. So this is generally the host URL, which you will find under the docs for any API. So let's go to the Spotify developer space and create something. So this is the URL developer.spotify.com. Generally, that's the URL format for any kind of any API that exists. They'll have a developer.whatever.com, or otherwise just search for that tool and API on Google, and you'll find the developer documentation. So I've already logged in with my account, and what I'll do is I'll create a client ID. In some applications, they'll say create an app. But yeah, basically that's a way to connect to that API. So I'll click on create a client ID. Oops. Okay. So yeah, create an app. And then I can name it anything. Description doesn't have to be long. It doesn't go through an approval as such, so you don't need to worry about that. Select something like mobile app or desktop app and click next. So they want to make sure that you're not using it for commercial, otherwise you're not monetizing based on this. So just say it's for non-commercial purpose. Let's get it, submit. I know you probably might not be ever using a Spotify API, but the steps that I'm showing are very similar to how you'll see it on any other API as well. So here now I have the client ID, And if I click on show client secret, I'll get that as well. And I'll be deleting it after I finish this session. But yeah, these are the two things that you'll need in a custom connector. So let's go back and let me at least copy the client ID. So let's click. So once I've added that host URL, which again you'll find at the docs, but yeah, I'll click on security and show you some other stuff. So you need to choose the type of authentication. So if you don't know what type of authentication it's using, the best place to find out is go to the docs for that API. So we are using the web API. We are not using any SDK or anything. So click on web API. And so in there, generally guides will be the place where they'll have some quick starting stuff. So click on authorization guide, and they'll have the whole details on how they're using the kind of authorization. So the user authentication is with OAuth 2.0, and that's why we'll use OAuth 2.0. And there are different types of authentication. So if you want a user authorization, we'll need to follow this authorization code method. There are some other ways, but for our case, it would make the most sense to use the authorization code. And the good thing is we don't need to worry about it. The custom connector will take care of for this whole procedure just by giving the custom connector the URLs. So let's go back here, select 2.0. There is a Spotify option in this, but I tried creating that and there was something breaking in it. So, yeah, I would recommend not to use that for now unless they rectify it. So let's go back to my dashboard. Click on this app, copy this, replace the client ID, show client secret, copy that, paste it. Now authorization URL. Again, this will be something that you can get it from this page. So they'll have the authorization code flow, and then they'll mention what's the URL to make that authorization request. So this, just copy this and we paste it here. And then the token URL, again, we go back here and then they'll have a URL for that as well. So for the token, this is the URL. And I'm repeating this point, but every API generally will have this kind of documentation guide, and you can find it over there. Now, if you don't find a refresh token URL, don't worry about it. Just copy this token URL and paste it in the refresh. Most of the times it's the same, unless they have specified a separate refresh URL. And the reason why you want to use refresh URL is a token has an expiry generally limit. So it will expire in probably like 1 hour or 1 day or 6 months or a year. Most of the time it's very temporary. It's like within a day or something. So the refresh URL basically sends back a request for a refresh token. It sends the token, current token, gets the refresh token, and then authorizes the user. So that way you don't have to put the token again and again. So under scope, so scope is the thing which, and every API will have different endpoints. So you can, so in case of Spotify, you can get like, you can play on a current user's account. You can get the tracks. You can get their playlist data and stuff. So every different API will have a different level of permission. If it's only reading stuff, it will be like user read something. And sometimes it's just one generic scope for everything, but sometimes they have a different scope for different things. Because let's say even when you get like sign in with Google, if it asks you all the things that, oh, it can basically send emails from your account, you're not going to accept it, right? So it's the same way this is what you use. The scope is the thing which defines what permissions to ask from the user. So in Spotify's case, you can click on this authorization scopes and just copy these three. These are the three that we're going to use today. Copy that and you paste over here. And I think there was, yeah, these are the three scopes that we need. And the redirect URL is something that will be generated once we click on create. So now we have added all the details. And so you can just click on create connector. Don't want to save this. So it has created the custom connector now with this redirect URL. Generally, this redirect URL is the same for every custom connector in Power Platform. So just copy that. You'll have to go back and click on that app settings in Spotify, and whichever system that you're using, they'll also have the settings page, and you have to put that redirect URL in here because it needs to verify that it's your app that's doing that. Otherwise, anybody can make a request and try to get the details. So this is like a verification step as well. So yep, we have added that. We'll click on save. So we have added redirect URL. Now what we'll do is so now we have created the custom connector, but we have not defined what do we want to do with it, right? So we'll add a new action, and this action will be to start or resume playback. So what this will do is whatever song I'm playing, it will play a specific track that I want to play on Spotify using this API. So start, resume, playback. So these are the things that I'm just not giving much details here, but these are the things which users will see. So if you're creating a custom connector that people in your organization can use, they'll have to, these are things that will help them understand what the custom connector is about. So it will show them the summary. If you add more details here, it will tell them that what is this custom connector doing, that specific action, what is it doing? So let's go back to the Spotify docs and click on reference. So there are different endpoints. What we want to do today is basically play a specific track. So there is a specific endpoint to start or resume a user's playback. So we'll click on that. And where is it? So this is the URL that we need, but then there are some other things that we'll need along with it. So we click on try it. This way, what it will do is it will give us the endpoint, and it will also give us what do we need to send to this endpoint. So it basically, endpoint is the URL, but then what data do we need to send so that we get the specific data back, or we're either telling Spotify to do something or telling it to give us data back. So let's copy this. And so this is the request part. So we click on import from sample. And here is the spot where you add all your URLs. So this one is a put request because it's basically playing a track. So it's not read, it's basically adding something dynamically. So it's a put request. And then the body, let's see. So these are the things. We'll copy that and paste it. And while I do that, just give me I had a better track to play. I didn't want to play this track. Actually, so yeah, I don't need to specify the track here. So this is just to specify what the type of body is. So I'll click on import. And what it will do is it will see that this is the body. And then if I click on edit, it will tell, okay, this is the three things that it needs. And these will be shown when you use it in Power Apps or Power Automate. So we have these three fields in here. We'll go back and then response. In this case, there is no response because it's just playing a track. In other cases, as we'll see, there will be a response that we get back, and we will see how to kind of format that as well. So we have created this. So let's just click on Update Connector. And what I'll do is, I know I didn't share it Teams with my desktop audio, so I'll just to show you how it works. Can't see this Teams things. Come on, go away. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so what I'll do is before I play that, let's actually just try testing it, and it will give us an error. So the context URL is basically the album track that we need to play. So you need to find that ID, and I'll show you how to get that ID as well. But right now I have an ID with me. An offset is if I want to start the track from the beginning or in position as well. So I'll just say it's 0, 0. So by the way, I don't have a connection yet. So we did create a connector, but we also need to create a connection so that we can try testing it. So we'll click on new connection, click on create. So this is the spot which you will see a lot of times you get from when you try to log in on a different website. So it will ask you, do you want to give all this data to this application? So basically the application that we created is asking for all these permissions. So let's click on agree. Sorry, I need to simply. Okay. So the bad part about this is it goes back to this spot, and for some reason, and we have to go back to custom connectors and then click.
Now we are in the government.
Sorry, what was that? Okay. All right, so let's click, this was our connectors, click on edit, test. And now you'll see that the connector is showing this connection. So now we can click on this, and then I think this was the tracker I want to play. 0, 0, and then test operation, and we get an error. So this specific endpoint of Spotify needs the player to be running, and then so it's just saying that no active device found. So what I'll do is I'll play something, and then create this request to change the track. So let me actually do this thing. I know I can share desktop audio, so let me quickly stop sharing and start sharing again with the audio. Okay. Let me know if, let me play the audio first, and come on, Spotify. Okay. Let's play some track, something. Come on, Spotify. Guess I might have to refresh it. Okay, can somebody confirm if they heard that?
I heard it.
Okay, so let me keep playing that. And let's go back to our API and then click on test operation. I didn't change anything, and now it has started playing some other track. You'll see that. I don't know what track it chose. Okay, so I know it was probably I chose the wrong track to play. So let's play something else. Let's play this. And then now what we'll do is we'll click on test operation, and it changed the track. So yeah, it's working. So let's stop playing that. So yeah, that's I mean, I know it sounded like a lot of steps, but then, I mean, if you start creating this custom connector on your own, it's pretty simple to create it and then start using it. So what I'll do is I'll now show you. So I had a custom connector separately created with some other endpoints. So I'll show you that. And then I'll show you how to use it in Power Automate. It always flow comes out first. But yeah, I'll show you how to use it in Power Apps and Power Automate. So let's go back and open up the other connector that I created. Custom connectors. Okay. It's running a bit slow for some reason. Oops. Guess I'm impatient. All right, so this was the one which I have with other endpoints. So I'll show you some of the other endpoints that we could use. So what I can do is I can get the current song. So let's go back and let me reduce the volume even a bit. So I'll play that, and so it's playing. It's very low. So I can click on test operation, and it will show me the current track that I'm playing. Notify. I can create playlist. I don't think I have something for that, but yeah, I can show you a search for tracks. So let's do Coldplay. Type is track. So all these details you can see in the API reference, and then limit will just say 10. Click test operation. So I search for Coldplay, and then I'm getting all these tracks now. Chainsmokers, I don't know why that came up. It gives a lot of details with the URI and everything. So let's stop playing that. And yeah, so yeah, let's look at how to use this in both Power Apps and Power Automate. So I have an app opened here. What I'll do is I'll click on. Let's first add the connector. So let's search in the data sources for Spotify. So I have 3 connectors, but the one which we just created was Spotify Demo Empower. We are not going to use that. We're going to use the one which has more endpoints available. So the Spotify Demo. And I have multiple connections. So I'll just select one and hope that that's the right one. I had switched accounts. I was testing it with somebody else's initially, and then I got premium. So it might work, it might not. Let's see. At least I'll show you how to use it. So yeah, we have got the custom connector here now added. So we'll add a gallery. So what we'll do is we'll search for a track and then play it based on whatever track came up. So I'll add that. And then in this track, what I'll do is I'll click on this Spotify demo, but then it has different endpoints. So we'll use search for tracks. So this is how your other functions also work, right? Office 365 users or anything. So, and it will give you these, the different data or different queries that you can add. So if I had given a better description to these things, it would show up with, okay, what's queue, what's limit, what's type. And actually, let me show you how to do that. So if you go back to the definition, you can go into each of the fields, not this one, the search for tracks. And then I can click on this and then select if it's a required field, what's the description, what's the summary, and all these things will then show up there for the users so that it helps them to understand what is it for. I'm getting some comments on that you're not able to see the thing, so let me see if I can blur, at least zoom something so that you can see it easily. So I know it's a bit blurred, but at least can you see it now? Oops. Nope. Okay. Hopefully. So okay. So we'll give some parameters. Q. I'll say again code play. The type is track. You can search for albums. You can search for tracks. In this case, we'll just search for tracks. And then and you can search for artists. There's a bunch of things. You have to look into the API. Sorry, limit is 10. And then close the brackets. So it's already searching for it now. But yeah, the fields are not correct. So we'll select each of these and change the value for it. Okay. So this item dot, okay, I guess I didn't do that. So we'll change this to dot tracks. Okay. And now, yeah, we're already getting some data. So, so you see, it gives me all the different things available. Now, the reason why it's not giving me a, yeah, I guess I didn't go one layer further. So it's dot tracks dot items. My bad. So let's select this now. And yeah, we have more stuff. So we'll select name so that this is the name of the song. Maybe we want to see the album. Maybe there is an album field as well. Yeah. And then by clicking on this, it should start playing this track. So what we'll do is we'll click on Spotify.demo. Start resume playback. So you want to play this specific track. Context URI, I think that's the one. And then I'll just give this item dot, I think it's the ID, Spotify ID, something like that. Hoping this works. All right. What happened here? Doesn't like this. Okay, yeah, there was some more. There was more within the album. So album was a record in itself. So we're getting the value now. So, and now for this one, even an image. So maybe there is an image as well. So we can click on this item dot album dot, let's see if it has an images. So there are multiple images. So you get the URL. Within URL, there are different. I guess I'm missing something here. Oh, okay. Let's see. Zoom's not good, huh? It's. Okay. Let's see. Let's not do the image, but yeah, I mean, you can. So the thing that I wanted to show you was, so you can use the tracks kind of here and then show it. Search. You can put a text input box and search for a track, and then when we click on this, I think it's already playing. So we'll start playing it again, and then click on it. I guess I might have, so let me actually show you the app which I already had. Might have changed some things in there, but I think I didn't choose okay, I had to put the Spotify track in front of it for it to work. But so yeah, I can show you now. So if I click on this, it'll start playing that song. It's, if you saw it changed here, if I increase the volume, you could probably listen to it as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess I won't get into much detail about the Spotify API. And I know I did see a question on what is the need of the Spotify connector. So yeah, I mean, this is not the specific use case that you want to use it for. You can use it to add tracks to a playlist. we actually we had a road trip with a bunch of other power addicts. We did it from Cincinnati to Florida during the user summit last year. And what we did was we got requests from Twitter, went with the hash. So anybody who tweeted with the hashtag and the song name, it went through an approval. We approved it, and it automatically added it to a playlist, which then played it on the Spotify account of the user who is connected to the car's CarPlay. So that way, I mean, we created something which got the request on Twitter, and then we played it automatically on Spotify. So again, use case is probably not the best what I'm showing here, but you can. The reason is to show you how to use custom connectors. Another one which I wanted to show was the Yelp one, because it's a different type of connector. It uses API key, and maybe that is something that you're using in your API. So I have the Yelp API opened here. I do have an app already. So what I'll do is I just click on copy that API key. And the other way to kind of use test APIs is to test it in Postman. Postman is a software tool, whatever you call it, which is available for free, and you can test any API request. It's I would say a much easier way to test APIs than to create the whole custom connector and test it. So let me show you how it looks in Postman. So this is my Postman account, and so in case of Yelp, actually, let me quickly show you that. So if I go back to the authentication type guide, it tells me that they're using API key. And for that API key to work, what I have to do is I have to authenticate API calls with authorization HTTP header as the value, and bearer space API key as the, so this is my header and this is my value for that header. So, and that basically it's called bearer token. And what I did was I chose the authorization type as bearer token, and then the token value, I put the API key value. So I have one of these APIs already here, Endpoint, which is to search for businesses. And what I'll do is I'll just click on, and we already had this. So let's search for pizza. And this is not my location, but this was just a sample endpoint available through Yelp. So I just passed that, and it gave me the response here. So you can paste this URL as it is from the Yelp API documentation, and then it will need to define the type of authorization, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to create the whole custom connector for this. And you'll get the results. So one thing which I probably didn't show was how to use it in Power Automate. So inside Power Automate, let's do the Spotify one first, and then show you the Yelp one as well. So let's do Spotify demo. And then, so the same, I'm getting all the actions as I get the actions for any other connector. And I can do search for tracks. Okay, type as track and limit 10. I'll save this, and then I'll just run this flow. Okay. Right, so it ran successfully, and what it gave me basically was this, all the different kind of values that I'm getting. So I'm getting it, the link for it, the whole items field, which is basically the array of all the search results, the limit, the next token, if I want to kind of page through the next set of results. And there are a total of 5,000 records. So So yeah, you can basically parse this JSON and then use it. So in the flow. So I can show you that actually quickly. So we can do parse JSON. So that's the way to kind of, if you don't want to use complex expressions, this is the thing that you want to use. So let's actually click on the body. And what I didn't do is I didn't copy that whole thing. But what I can do is I can copy that results from here, search. So this every API will also have some kind of testing way within their documentation. Most of them have it, some of them don't. But yeah, you can try from there as well. So this way you at least get the result, and what you can do is, come on, yeah, try it. So I'm getting all the results, and what I can do is I can just copy this whole thing. It's acting a bit weirdly. Start doing the search. But anyways, what I wanted to show you was to be able to use that JSON in the flow. Actually, it's already parsed it, so you can actually take it directly. You don't even need to use parse JSON. But if you have some fields within an object, within the result that is returned, you might have to use parse JSON for it. Okay, I think that was for Spotify. So yeah, let's quickly create. I know we have like another 12 minutes, I guess. So we'll quickly create the custom connector for Yelp just to show you how the API authentication thing works. So if only my internet works first. Okay, let's click on new, create from blank. Yelp, continue. API.yelp.com. I think that's the correct one. Let's confirm that. Let's open, oops, not this, Postman. Yeah, api.yelp.com, and then security. And then, so here we need to specify basic, API key authentication. So now this one I'm just guessing because I still didn't get what's the label and what's the name thing. If somebody knows, probably they can tell me what it is. But I just faced the same thing in here, and it's a header request. Sometimes you need to paste the API key in the query, but in Yelp's case, you need to put it in the header. So I'll do that, click on definition, and then add a new action. Search businesses, just copy the same thing. And then what we'll do is we import from sample, and we'll get it from Postman again. This is the URL that we need. Get, paste it, and import. So in this case, you're seeing the three things that we need being put it as query parameters. So you can paste those in and then do the search. So let's click on create connector. Oops, yeah, meet interpreter. So the operation ID cannot have space in it. So let's just remove that. Update connector. Then let's click on test. Again, it will go through the same thing. We'll have to create a new connection. So here it's asking for the API key. So I'll show you what I paste. Let me quickly grab that. Yelp. paste that, and I don't know if I can show you that, but yeah, it was, so I had to put in bearer first and then space and then the API key. That's what Yelp is defining it as. Excuse me. So yeah, I have to go back to custom connectors. Open the Yelp one. Come on. Okay. And one thing which you can do for Power Apps to understand the response better, if the response is pretty complex with like multiple objects and stuff or arrays within an array, what you want to do is you want to click on this response. Actually, sorry, add a default response. And what you can do is the thing that you got from Postman or whichever tool you're using, just copy that response and paste it in here. This is the default. Sorry, I think okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, import. And then click on this default, and then you can see it has all these values now. It knows that the response that I'm going to get from this API is going to include all these things. So Power Apps will understand it. Otherwise, Power Apps doesn't, as of now, have any way to parse JSON. So let's click on Update Connector once more. And then let's click on Test. And we'll search for pizza. Latitude, something, longitude, something, test operation. All right, yep, it worked, and it has some locations in here. And the same thing, what we can do is in the app now, instead of this Spotify thing, we can search for the Yelp API, Yelp connector, and probably doesn't have it yet because I just added it. I might have to refresh or create a new app. But yeah, it's the same kind of way that I use the Spotify one, and you can use the Yelp one. So I know I covered the APIs, which not a lot of you might use in business cases, but you probably might use APIs which are very similar to this. It's basically different types of endpoints. The way they work is basically the same. If it's an OAuth 2.0 type of authentication, it will follow the same kind of authorization flow which Spotify uses. If it's API key, it will use the same thing as Yelp. So yeah, it's basically, I mean, it doesn't matter whatever API you're using. So let's quickly show the Yelp one, and then we keep it open to questions. So, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in them in the chat, or maybe if you want to unmute yourself and ask it, that's fine too.
We do have one question here from write@globalgap.org. Are there any differences when making a connector with a SOAP API?
So SOAP is something which I have not yet played with much. I know it's like all these are REST APIs, but SOAP has, I think it's I mean, it was used quite a while ago, but the thing is, a lot of legacy stuff still uses that. I'm not sure if custom connector allows you to connect with SOAP APIs. I might be wrong in that, but I just don't have the right information on it. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's okay not to have the answers. There's plenty of answers out there.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess, I mean, I can show you this, but apart from that, feel free to. So what we can do here is instead of using something else, we can just use my location. Location dot latitude and longitude will be location dot long. And Oh, not Coldplay. We don't want Coldplay in Yelp. We want pizza. Oh, I feel like ordering a pizza. So yes, let's take this. So yeah, in this case, we wanted the businesses. So that's the array that we are looking for. And now it's getting all those. So yeah, I'm getting all the pizza places nearby. It has a number and a lot of other things. So yeah, you can make it much more interactive and stuff, and have some more details into it. Another good use case about the Spotify API, actually, I use it and I had the flow here, is if I am listening to something on my web, I can pause the playback when the meeting is about to start. So I'm using the when an upcoming event is starting soon, with starting 1 minute before, just 1 minute before it will pause whatever I'm listening on Spotify. I don't need to go to Spotify and pause it. So there you go, a good use case that you can use for Spotify. All right, I guess those were all the things that I wanted to show. I know there's a link for the feedback, so please, I hope this is the correct one, Jamie, right? I just
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, if you please give us feedback so that we can make.
And I'll post a link to that in the chat as well if you don't have your cameras out, so you can click that link. Great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
We have 3 minutes left. If anyone else wants to jump in, ask questions, you can turn your mic on or you can post in chat. And if not, I will stop the recording. Going once, going twice. Any parting thoughts, Vivek?
What's that?
Anything else you want to add before I stop the recording?
I guess I covered everything, so yeah, I don't think so.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.